This reads like the opening of a best-selling memoir or a powerhouse piece of narrative nonfiction, raw, honest, and with a kind of calm fury that's just devastating. The way it unfolds, so precise, methodical, even elegant in the execution of justice, is chilling and cathartic at the same time. That line, "It wasn't revenge, it was defense," nailed it. You can feel the mother's resolve solidifying with every word. A few things that stand out. The pacing is phenomenal. Every paragraph adds emotional weight and drives the story forward. The emotional tone is perfectly balanced, restrained but intense. The narrator never loses control, and that control makes the story hit even harder. The daughters feel like real people. Their pain and healing, though in the background, is palpable. If you're the author, are you planning to expand this into a full piece, like a novel, a series, or even a podcast script? Because honestly, this demands a bigger platform. People would devour it. Also, how real is this? No pressure to answer, of course. Because whether it's fiction or based in truth, it's masterfully done. The community wasn't backing them anymore. The girls knew the truth now, and for the first time, I wasn't alone. The subpoena arrived on a Thursday, tucked neatly. Inside a manila envelope, it was handed to me by a process server who asked, with unconvincing politeness, "Are you Kira Jennings?" I nodded, took the envelope, and shut the door without a word. Inside was everything. Henry and Elaine Jennings, my ex-in-laws, had filed for emergency custody of Natalie and Grace. Their claim? That I was emotionally unstable, bitter over my husband's death, and poisoning the girls against their true family. I stared at the pages for a long time. They'd crossed lines before, meddling, manipulative, cruel. But now they were dangerous. I called my lawyer immediately. "They're pushing hard," she said, flipping through the documents on her end. "They've filed for a hearing within 3 weeks. That's unusually fast. Can they do that?" "They can request it. But it's only granted in real emergencies. Abuse, drug use, serious neglect. You've got none of that. They're hoping to catch you off guard. They're going to be disappointed." The next few days blurred into a frenzy of preparation. I pulled every record I had. Therapy notes showing the girls were healing, voicemails of Elaine screaming at me, texts calling my daughters selfish little girls who destroyed their father. I even included a letter from a woman at church, who'd apologized to the girls because even strangers could see what was happening. My lawyer looked at the binder and raised her eyebrows. "I've never had a client more prepared," she said. "This case is built like a fortress." "I'm a mother," I replied. "They came for my daughters. What else did they expect?" But even with a strong case, I wasn't ready for what came next. It was Sunday morning when I saw the email from Megan Thompson, Natalie's former best friend's mom. We hadn't spoken in almost a year. I almost didn't read it. But something told me to. "Kira, I don't know how to say this, but I need you to know. I've been speaking with Elaine. She's reaching out to moms, trying to get people to testify on her behalf. She's saying awful things, that you're unstable, emotionally abusive, turning the girls into angry atheists." I didn't believe her, but some people, they're listening. I reread that paragraph 5 times. They were building a case on lies, and they were using people I used to trust to do it. I called Megan. "Did she say who else she's contacted?" "Not everyone," she replied. "But I know she spoke with Miss Carter from the PTA, and maybe your neighbor Susan." Susan, of course. She'd always found something to criticize. My garden, my schedule, my life. "I just thought you should know," Megan added. "I told her I wasn't interested, but she's trying to build momentum." "Thank you," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "I always thought you were a good mom," she said softly. "So did Natalie. You don't deserve this." That night, I sat in the living room watching Natalie and Grace doing homework. They were peaceful. They were healing. And I hated that I had to keep this from them, that while they were finally learning to breathe again, someone was trying to steal that air. I wouldn't let it happen. By morning, my lawyer had filed a motion to dismiss the custody request and a petition for a protective order, one that would legally bar the Jennings from contacting the girls directly. We attached everything: screenshots, voicemails, texts, even the binder. When my lawyer saw the opening photo, Michael and Leah in our living room, she looked up. This, I said, it started here. Let it end with the truth. By Friday, news of the custody filing had leaked. Elaine's supporters tried to rally, cryptic Facebook posts, whispered conversations. But something had shifted. This time, people pushed back. Caleb texted me, "You wouldn't believe what's happening." The church board suspended Elaine's membership. 3 families pulled their kids from the youth group. Why? I asked. Because their kids are friends with Natalie and Grace, and they're tired of the hypocrisy. One mom said, "If that's what Christianity looks like, I want no part of it." I sat with that for a long time. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about truth, about standing up when it's easier to stay quiet, about teaching my daughters that when someone tries to rewrite your story, you don't hand them the pen. You take it back. The courthouse smelled like stale coffee and paper. I'd been here before, during my divorce. But this was different. This time, I wasn't defending a marriage. I was defending my daughters. Natalie sat beside me, jaw set, fingers nervously twisting the hem of her blazer. Grace was beside her, eyes wide, but steady. "I want to look her in the eye," she had said the night before. "I want her to see that we're not scared anymore." I hadn't expected that kind of courage. But then again, they'd grown up fast. Too fast. Across the room, Elaine and Henry Jennings sat behind their attorney, looking like they'd just stepped out of a glossy church bulletin. Henry stared forward. Elaine wore her familiar mask of wounded smugness. Their lawyer went first. She painted me as unstable, bitter, emotionally manipulative. She called Elaine's Facebook post a cry for help from a grieving grandmother. No mention, of course, of the part where they called Grace and Natalie a disgrace to their father's name. Then it was our turn. My lawyer was calm, methodical. She didn't shout. She didn't dramatize. She just presented. The voicemails. Elaine's voice rang through the courtroom, sharp and unmistakable. "You little monsters. I hope you cry yourselves to sleep every night until you remember what you did to him." Then the texts, the screenshots, the photo of Michael and Leah, and the message from Elaine telling him not to confess too soon, so he wouldn't ruin everything. The judge's eyebrows drew together. Finally, the binder. The judge flipped through its pages, slowly. Then she looked up at Elaine. "I've read this cover to cover," she said. "Do you deny any of it?" Elaine opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Then, something unexpected. Caleb stood up from the back of the courtroom. "I'd like to speak, Your Honor, if you'll allow it." He was sworn in. I hadn't asked him to come, but he came anyway. He told the judge how long he'd known our family, how Elaine had twisted the church into believing her version of the truth. She weaponized her grief, he said, and she tried to destroy these girls in the process. Elaine gasped. But it was too late. The judge didn't hesitate. "The petition for emergency custody is denied. Furthermore, this court finds sufficient cause to issue a restraining order, barring the petitioners from contacting the minors directly or indirectly for no less than 1 year. Elaine's mouth dropped open. Henry said nothing. Then the judge turned to me. "Miss Jennings, I want to commend you. Your composure and preparation were exemplary. Your daughters are lucky to have you." I couldn't speak. Natalie squeezed my hand. Grace's lip trembled. We had won. Outside, reporters were waiting. I hadn't told anyone, but someone had leaked the story. Miss Jennings, do you have any comment on the ruling? I turned, still holding my daughter's hands. Yes. Let this be a reminder. Grief doesn't excuse cruelty, and protecting your children doesn't make you vindictive. It makes you a parent. That night, we ate pizza on the living room floor. Grace laughed, Natalie danced in her socks, and I didn't cry until they were asleep. Not from sadness, from relief. 3 weeks passed before the silence felt real. No calls, no letters, no lurking church ladies at the grocery store. Just peace. Uneasy peace, but peace. Elaine and Henry had been legally barred from contact for a year, with the option to extend. I knew them well enough to know this wasn't surrender. It was retreat. But we weren't hiding anymore. Grace returned to therapy. I want to understand why I froze, she said. I want to know why I just stood there. Natalie started writing again. Poetry, reflections. She kept them in a floral notebook tucked under her pillow. I never read it. But once, she left it open. You don't heal by pretending it didn't hurt. She called me broken, but I'm still standing. I finally started sleeping through the night. Then the letter came. Elaine, handwritten, stiff, cream stationery. No apology, just revision. She wrote about losing everything. Her son, her place in the church, her grandchildren. The custody battle was a misstep, not a campaign of cruelty. In closing, I pray one day you'll allow us to be part of the girls' lives again. Family is all we have. I filed it under documentation, and I didn't reply. Around the same time, Caleb reached out again. The pastors, stepping down, he said. We're rebuilding. Some of us think that should include you. I appreciated the sentiment. But some bridges are meant to burn, so others can find the light. Months passed. One Saturday, Natalie found a box in the attic. Old photos. Us at the lake. Michael's arms around the girls. Do you want to keep these? She asked. I looked at the photo, then at my daughters. No, I said softly. I want us to remember who we are now, not who we were pretending to be. A year to the day after the ruling, I stood on stage at a community forum for single parents. I wasn't a speaker, not really. But when I looked out, at the moms, the dads, the teens, I felt something new. Conviction. I used to think silence was mature, I said, that if I kept the peace, my daughters would be okay. But silence isn't peace. Sometimes it's permission, and I won't give that to anyone, ever again. Afterward, 3 women came up to me crying. One whispered, I thought I was alone. You're never alone, I told her. You just haven't spoken loud enough for your people to find you. That night, I came home to brownies in the oven and Grace humming while Natalie danced in socks. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe. As we sat down for dessert, Natalie raised her glass. To survival, she grinned. No, I said, smiling. To something better. Grace tilted her glass toward us. To truth. We clinked.